President Donald Trump on Tuesday fired his top U.S. cybersecurity official, Chris Krebs, in a tweet. Trump accused him of making a, quote, highly inaccurate statement on the security of the U.S. election. Krebs was the director of the Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and worked on protecting the election from hackers. Reuters reported last week, citing 3 sources close to Krebs, that he expected to be fired. The Trump administration has asked for content to be edited or removed from a website run by the cybersecurity agency, which is dubbed Rumor Control, that worked on debunking disinformation, including the claim that Democrats were behind a mass election fraud scheme. But under Krebs, election security officials have refused to delete accurate information. The agency has drawn praise from both Democrats and Republicans for the handling of the U.S. election, including praise for Krebs for his bipartisan work in the past 2 years.
The U.S. Senate on Tuesday blocked President Donald Trump's nomination of Judy Shelton to the board of the Federal Reserve, making her the latest in a string of failed nominees to the central bank.
The motion is not agreed to.
Trump's party has a majority in the current Senate, but was left short of enough votes to confirm Shelton after COVID-19 exposure forced 2 Republicans into quarantine, and Republican Senators Mitt Romney and Susan Collins joined Democrats in voting no. Meanwhile, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris's vote made the difference for Democrats. She traveled to Washington from Delaware, where she was working with the Biden transition team.
The yeas are 47.
The vote was 47-50, with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell voting no to preserve the option to reconsider later. The Kentucky senator's plans to confirm Shelton were complicated Tuesday morning when Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley announced he would be in quarantine after exposure to someone who tested positive for COVID-19. Joining Senator Rick Scott of Florida, who is also in quarantine, both Republicans were expected to back Shelton,
Monetary policy,
whose nomination has been controversial from the start.
We don't know who we are nominating to the Federal Reserve.
Shelton has in the past argued the nation would be better off returning to the gold standard, but when she faced the Senate at a hearing in February, she backtracked.
I would not advocate going back to a prior historical monetary arrangement. I think it's really important to acknowledge that the power to regulate the value of U.S. money is given to Congress by our Constitution.
Shelton's views on interest rates have moved in lockstep with Trump's, criticizing easy money before Trump took office, but supporting it after. She has also expressed skepticism over the Fed's need to set policy independently from the president and Congress. Shelton joins other Trump Fed nominees that have failed to be confirmed, including former Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain, who later died of COVID-19. The White House, though, Tuesday said it's standing by its nominee and that it expects the U.S. Senate will eventually vote to confirm her.
President Donald Trump will sharply reduce the number of U.S. forces in Afghanistan from 4,500 to 2,500 before he leaves office, stopping short of the complete withdrawal he pledged to carry out by Christmas. Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller, who Trump installed last week after firing Mark Esper, made the announcement on Tuesday at the Pentagon and also outlined a modest withdrawal of forces in Iraq, reducing troop levels there from 3,000 to 2,500.
By January 15th, 2021, our forces, their size in Afghanistan, will be 2,500 troops. Our force size in Iraq will also be 2,500 by that same date. This is consistent with our established plans and strategic objectives.
White House National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien afterwards went further, telling reporters that Trump hoped that all U.S. troops will be home from Afghanistan and Iraq in the spring.
By May, it is President Trump's hope that they will all come home safely and in their entirety.
Trump's decision to limit himself to a partial withdrawal in Afghanistan was first reported by Reuters on Monday and triggered a rebuke from senior Republicans who fear it will undermine security and hurt fragile peace talks with the Taliban. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell Tuesday again warned against any major changes in the U.S. defense or foreign policy right now.
I think it's extremely important here in the next couple of months not to have any earth-shaking changes with regard to defense and foreign policy. I think a precipitous drawdown in either Afghanistan or Iraq would be a mistake. I've so said publicly yesterday, and I hope that's precisely where these discussions end up.
The withdrawals could hand President-elect Joe Biden a new set of challenges when he takes office on January 20th. U.S. and Afghan officials are warning of troubling levels of violence by Taliban insurgents and persistent Taliban links to al-Qaeda. It was those ties that triggered U.S. military intervention in 2001, following the al-Qaeda September 11th attacks on the U.S., leaving thousands of American and allied troops dead since then in America's longest war.
I brought this fish to show you. I'm making an appeal to the people of this country to eat this fish. Don't be afraid. You will not get infected by the coronavirus. We eat this raw. I will eat and show you. Our people who are in the fisheries industry cannot sell their fish. People of this country are not eating fish, and owners of multi-day fishing boats cannot afford to go to sea. They are in debt because they couldn't sell their fish.
After almost 6 months, the Democratic Republic of Congo has announced the end of an Ebola outbreak in the country's west. And health authorities are looking at how they can apply the lessons learned there to the fight against coronavirus. The DRC's Ebola outbreak, which infected 130 people and killed 55, emerged in June, just weeks before a separate Ebola epidemic in the country's east drew to a close. That one killed more than 2,200 people, the second most in the disease's history. Health Minister Eteni Longondo attributed the success of the response to the availability of vaccines and treatments, as well as efforts to move treatment centres closer to local communities. The World Health Organization said that medics vaccinated 40,000 people in communities scattered across rainforests that often lacked electricity. They also used cold chain technology to keep vaccines at temperatures as low as -80 degrees Celsius. The Red Cross and Red Crescent societies also said it would apply best practices such as the use of rapid response teams of local volunteers to coronavirus. Congo has suffered 11 Ebola outbreaks since the virus was discovered near the Ebola River in 1976. That's more than double any other country.
Hyundai Motor is being sued over a string of battery fires in its electric vehicles. Some 200 people have filed a class action suit in South Korea, according to lawyers involved. That is over incidents involving the brand's Kona EVs. The plaintiffs want Hyundai to replace the battery packs, the most expensive part of the car. And one lawyer says they want about $7,200 each to compensate for what they say is the reduced value of their vehicles. Hyundai has already recalled more than 74,000 Konas. The news comes after General Motors said last week it was recalling over 68,000 EVs after 5 reported fires and 2 minor injuries. Batteries for the affected vehicles are made by South Korea's LG Chem, which also supplies Hyundai. Now, analysts say the stories could dent demand for EVs, just as sales of the green vehicles are starting to soar worldwide. Right now, though, it's Hyundai and LG Chem with the biggest headache. Industry experts say they could face costs of up to $540 million if they have to replace all the affected batteries. In a statement to Reuters, Hyundai said the cause of the fires was unclear. It says it is investigating with the help of suppliers and the Transport Ministry.
Boeing won approval from US regulators on Wednesday to put its 737 MAX back in the skies. It comes after the jet was grounded last year following 2 fatal crashes. 346 people were killed within 5 months in 2018 and 2019 when 2 MAX planes crashed in Indonesia and Ethiopia. It led to scores of investigations and cost the company around $20 billion. The subsequent 20-month grounding has been the longest in commercial aviation history. The Federal Aviation Administration will now demand new pilot training and software upgrades to deal with a stall prevention system called MCAS. In both crashes, MCAS repeatedly shoved down the jet's nose as pilots struggled to regain control. The FAA has also said it would no longer allow Boeing to sign off on the airworthiness of some 450 already built 737 MAXs. Instead, it plans on in-person inspections that could take a year or more to complete. Since the plane's grounding, a number of probes have heavily criticised Boeing's development of the MAX. A report by the US House of Representatives said it made faulty design and performance assumptions. It also said Boeing concealed the very existence of MCAS from 737 MAX pilots. It accused the plane maker of withholding crucial information from the FAA, its customers and 737 MAX pilots. With a return to service now confirmed, Boeing is taking no chances. Sources said the company will run a 24-hour war room to keep track of all MAX flights for issues that could impact the jet's return.
The UK has moved up its deadline for banning the sale of new gasoline and diesel-powered cars by 5 years to 2030, all part of what Prime Minister Boris Johnson has cast as the country's, quote, green revolution. Johnson, a member of the Conservative Party, wants to underscore his green credentials and also cut net emissions to zero by 2050. After Brexit battles, national lockdowns and domestic political problems, he's hoping this will help reset his government and its image with the public. Last year, Britain became the first G7 country to set such a zero emissions target, which will require major changes in the way Britons travel, use energy and eat. Johnson says the plan will mobilise $16 billion of government money, with as much as 3 times that amount coming from the private sector, and create and support 250,000 highly skilled green jobs in the next decade. Under the new plan, the sale of hybrid cars and vans would also be banned from 2035.